Due to breaking news, we are bringing you Escape Pod Cast Extra. All right, guys, then we're back on the Escape Pod Cast, and if you just skipped ahead, our special guest today, of course, needs no introduction to the faithful players of the game, but I will give her one anyway. She's worked with such studios as Acclaim, Mythic, as Capital Games. She, of course, works on now. The Simpsons Tapped Out, she's worked on. South Park Rally, one of my favorite Nintendo 64 games. And, of course, Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes as the senior producer of the latter. You have seen her on GameSpot. You've seen her on G4 TV. Remember when that was a thing, Scotty?
I do.
And we are privileged to get to know her a little bit better today, and our listeners as well. Carrie, welcome back to the Escape Pod Cast. Scotty, you were going to do something for this second segment. Go right ahead, bud.
Yeah, sure, man. Look, the thing about Carrie is that I've always admired the way that she interacts with the community. Now, some people tend to get a little bit personal, and I don't like that. When people get a bit personal, because these guys, they're trying their best. They're creating something that we all love, which is Star Wars, which is unreal. And I just thought that what we might do right now is, Paul, as you sort of alluded to, I thought we should get to know Carrie a little bit better instead of just the text that you see on the screen, that people just send to, go crazy about. So, Carrie, if you will indulge us, we would like to get to know you a little bit more, if that's all right.
Sounds good.
Excellent. Well, Carrie, first things first, I've been doing a bit of face stalking and Twitter stalking as well, and you've actually tweeted a photo of an awesome tattoo on someone's back. Is that your tattoo of Carrie Fisher on the back, or is that someone else?
That is me. I have a tattoo artist that I love. He's a local Sacramento artist. He works at a shop called, I am not kidding you, the Old Republic Tattoos. So you may know why I found them. And all those guys there do a lot of Star Wars tattoos, but they basically do other stuff. And I actually had him do my, I have a half sleeve, which is a Hamlet tattoo. And then I loved his work so much, and he and I got along. And when you find a tattoo artist that you really love and who's kind of, you can vibe off of each other, we started talking about Star Wars. It's a passion of his and a passion of mine. I actually believe he's tattooed people from Lucas as well. And
wow.
Anyways, yeah, there's a lot of people kind of in the area that have a passion for Star Wars, as you can imagine. And a lot of people get Star Wars tattoos, of course. But anyway, so we started talking about my back, which was all space related. It was I had a Hubble thing, and I had this Galileo thing, and I've got just a bunch of kind of space related tattoos. And I said to him, look, my vision for my back was that my left shoulder was the Hubble, and it's a constellation there. And I was like, that's space as we understand it right now. And my right shoulder was a quote from Galileo, and these images of stars is from it's actually my obsession with UI, the first instance of inline of images in a book, of a book that Galileo wrote called The Starry Messenger, and it's the Pleiades on my right shoulder. And so it was space as we understood it when we first started thinking about space. And so I wanted a Star Wars tattoo to tie it all together, to be like space as we imagine it, like in our wildest imaginations. And what he started to do, I couldn't even imagine it, because he started to kind of work it into my existing tattoos. He's actually going over all of my existing tattoos. So that was just the first sitting. He spent most of the time on Vader's helmet, and that looks really, really clean. And he just outlined Leia, and she's not, I didn't want it to be head on. I didn't want it to be like a likeness thing for Carrie Fisher. I wanted it to be like a vibe of Leia. So she's a little bit stylized in the artistic Luca, if you're familiar.
Yes,
and,
okay.
And and I'm stoked. But yeah, that's my back.
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
We'll share a pic of that in our listener lounge too, by the way, guys, because it's a great tattoo. It's some really cool art that they've done. And, I've seen the likes of LA Ink and all those sorts of things, and it's up there with that sort of stuff. So, guys, take a look at that in the listener lounge.
One thing that's not there that I want to just say, because it's super cool, the idea that he had. So, like I said, I have the Hubble Space Telescope, and he re-outlined he's going to make it bigger. And then next to the Hubble, he's going to put TIE fighters. So he's making them kind of work together now.
That's awesome. That's awesome. There's a cool Vader there too. It looks great.
Yeah.
while we're talking about Leia, at the very, very beginning of this show, we had our very, very good friend Nev opening up this show, and he asked you, how's your pom-pom-tastic Leia doing in your office?
Oh, he's so sweet. Yeah, so she's like on my desk. In fact, she basically is sitting in front of all of the other little kind of chatty things on my desk because she's so cool. And she's like literally right behind my mouse pad. So she's there. She's hanging out. I will say that I did, not because of him, but just because, people, I was like, is there any chance there's a recording device in this adorable little thing? I'm not, but no, she's amazing. And she's in a place of honor.
Well, I'll tell you this. I'm worried about the same thing because right to my right on my recording studio desk is a pom-pom-tastic Thrawn. So maybe he's listening into both sides of this conversation right now.
Yeah, and he's going to do his own podcast.
Well, he does. He does.
Well, I mean, it's a version of this podcast, but it was all the stuff we said when we stopped recording.
Well,
master plan.
We are very appreciative of all the work that he puts in for us as well, and I'm glad that we could share a pom-pom-tastic creation alongside each other.
You should definitely post that. I post a picture of that on my Twitter as well. I can send you a picture if you want. It's super cool, and that's another thing about this community, right? Like, I mean, it's just like I feel so honored. Normally when people give stuff to us, I give it to the team or we put it in a central location because I'm lucky enough to have a lot of access to things. I don't need any kind of freebies or anything, but this one stays with me. So no one else gets it.
Yes, awesome.
Now you mentioned two eras when we were talking earlier about the characters, but now we're going to nail you down to just one. What is your one favorite era of Star Wars?
Oh gosh, it's the original trilogy. I think especially for my age range, I think the thing we always talk about with Star Wars is that every kind of generation has had the Star Wars movies of their generation, and that's not to say that younger people don't love the original trilogy like we do, but I think that's one of the things that keeps the brand so fresh. Is that my friends' kids are all obsessed with the Clone Wars cartoon, and I think it's just refreshed and relevant. But so for me, there were twin boys who lived across the street, and I grew up in the time where everybody went out and played outside, and we basically always play Leia, Luke, and Han. So like for me, like it's such a part of my youth. Even in fact, when I got that Vader tattoo on my back, I sent it to my mom. Well, before I sent it, I said, "Do you remember my Darth Vader Halloween costume?" Because I basically, from the time that I was like 4 to 10, I didn't want to be anything else for Halloween. And so every year I was Darth Vader until, I don't know if I got the age right, but it was like 8, 9, 10, something in there. The Vader, it was a plastic Vader helmet, broke. And my mom, it was like the day of, my mom had to run out and buy like a witch's hat and a wart. And then that was basically the last time I cared about Halloween because I was like, this is stupid. I want to be Darth Vader. So I was like, remember my Vader costume? And I had this moment where I was like, did I play this up in my head because I love Star Wars so much? And my mom was like, no, I remember your Vader costume. And I was like, look, it's on my back.
Well, we'll share a picture of that in the listener lounge as well.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, Carrie, one of the things that I love about you is your love of animals. I follow you on Twitter quite a bit, and when you share your photos of your beautiful, beautiful dogs that follow you just about left, right, and center. I mean, like I've got a big heart for a dog. I mean, she's my best mate at home. She's a cattle dog crossed with a border collie. You've got a couple of them though, and yours are they rescue dogs by any chance that you've got?
Yeah, so my second one was abandoned at there's a local dog park. I wasn't planning on getting a second dog, but he was abandoned at the local dog park, and he was a mess. He didn't have a chip he was they said he was with a homeless person, and the California fires had happened in Sacramento. The air quality got very, very bad for a while, and so he was just left at the dog park. Now, thank God they left him at the dog park as opposed to anywhere else. And so the person my dog sitter basically who looks after my dogs when I'm not with them had my dog there, and basically she brought her to me and said, "Can you look after him?" And I said, "Sure, yeah, like I'll foster him for a couple of days," and you know how that goes, right? Like he's not mine forever. And he was like 10 minutes in. And my first dog, interestingly, the guy whose job that I came, I didn't take his job, he put in his notice, but the guy whose job I basically filled when I came to work on Galaxy of Heroes, one of the first days that I was visiting to start the new job, he said, "Oh, I'm watching a dog," and it suddenly had babies. And I guess the person who had the dog didn't know that it was pregnant, which I don't know why. But again,
no.
And so then the litter, only one of the puppies survived, and the other, there was just two, and the other one had passed away. And so I just responded to him and said, "Look, you can take the day off, but I need that dog." And that's my first dog, Gerald. And she basically spent.
Wait. You said Gerald she?
Yes. So aside from not knowing the dog was pregnant, they said, "It's a little boy dog. What do you want the dog to be called?" And I said, "Gerald." And so I got my little boy dog. And when I finally went and got him and took him to the vet, and the vet said, "Why did you put male?" Turns out we had a little gender mishap. And, it's 2019 now, so she can be called Gerald if she wants to, and she likes it.
I'll tell you that Boba Mutt, my German Shepherd, is a girl. And I have no problem. So we have that in common.
yeah, we have a little gender bender dog. Look, she's Geraldine when she's in trouble. But she spent, and actually, you know what I should give you? Actually, I think it's on my Instagram where I post videos of her. But she spent the first 2 months of her life in the office for ships overtime, because we were working a lot of overtime to get the ships update done. And our office is dog friendly, which one of the things I love about Capital Games.
Fantastic.
And when you're working long, it's awesome. When you're working these long, stressful hours, I will say that there are times where just taking a moment, stopping and playing with the dog for a little bit, just the stress relief and the oxytocin and all that.
Yeah.
And so there's a video. We were so tired. Chips was so wearing on us because there was so much work to get done. And there's a picture of her, and she's 6 weeks old, and everyone's giving her a shoe. So there's a pile of shoes, and she's just rolling around in shoes. It's hilarious.
I love it.
That is certainly awesome. Oh man! And so they do go everywhere with you, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, I really, I've seen your dogs, and then I just from the description. I really thought I was going to be the person that had a real dog, a dog that you throw your arms around and wrestle with. But these two dogs kind of happened to me, and they're both little, frou-frou-y dogs. And I love them with all my heart, and I would never trade them for the world. But one of the pluses to having smaller dogs is that they can. So Gerald's been on, I think at this point, she's been on almost 20 flights. So
wow.
She is a seasoned traveler, and she goes everywhere with me. Morty, who's my other dog, he's a little bit still skittish because, he kind of had a pretty traumatized we don't know how long, maybe 6 or 7 years. And so, he doesn't travel as much, but yeah, they kind of come everywhere.
That's
now,
awesome.
Are you putting them in any mini frou-frou clothes at all?
Yes. So yes, and I know that's a loaded question. Gerald's perennial Halloween costume is Wicket.
Yep.
Partly because my understanding, and she's like Shih Tzu and other things. In fact, I call her, she's a Shih Tzu Poo because it's Shih Tzu, Maltese, and Poodle, and he's a Pom Chihuahua, which is Pomeranian, Poodle, and Chihuahua. I did both of their DNA tests so that I would know for sure. And I believe that Shih Tzus in some way are related or affiliated to Ewoks, and so I got her a Wicket costume immediately, and she's Wicket.
That's sensational. I have seen the costume. It looks awesome. Again, I'll put that in the listener lounge too because the costume looks sensational, Carrie. And know, I'd love to see you back in your Darth Vader outfit, walking, this one down the street. With Wicket there. I think that'd be brilliant. You need to have the music too.
Paul Anthony here, taking a quick break. We're going to step aside for just a moment, and when we return, more about Carrie and getting to know Carrie a little bit better as a person.
Hi, this is Cyphermaster SB Crumb, and you're listening to the Escape Pod cast. This show was recorded in front of a live studio audience.
Micaeus Modding Mayhem is the premier remodding service for the game that we all love, Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. With some of the most affordable rates in the industry, Micaeus will rebuild your roster from top to bottom and give you consultation on where to go from there. Micaeus has a 100% satisfaction guarantee and lots of useful additional services, including a full cleanup of your mods, loadout pages, PvP plans, and more. Contact Micaeus today on Discord at all lowercase Micaeus number 0127. That's MIKAYAS number 0127, or at micaeusmods@gmail.com. Micaeus Modding Mayhem, the official remodding service of the Escape Pod cast.
Like what you hear on the Escape Pod cast? Want to support Scotty and Paul? Then sign up to be a Patreon. For as low as $2 a month, you can help them launch Escape Pods for months to come. Visit patreon.com/theescapepod to sign up. Support us today.
Hey everyone, it is the heartthrob of the Outer Rim, your boy Urs, and you are listening to the Escape Pod cast with Paul Anthony and Scotty McLaren. Boys, I think I speak for all of us when I say you are hot, you are red hot.
Welcome back to the Escape Podcast extra bonus episode right now, where we're getting to know Carrie as a person. Scotty had just recommended that Carrie walk her dog dressed as Wicket, while she was dressed as Darth Vader.
I will absolutely do that. We have a couple of people at the office that are that have like full done costumes. I believe a few of them are 501st kind of certified costumes. And I'm going to tell it. I think it's like a sort of sweet story. One of our QA guys has like a full on Kylo Ren. It's a beautiful, beautiful costume. And he goes to children's hospitals and goes around and sees little kids. The kids know who he is. But sometimes the parents don't, and they often go. Sometimes to pair them, Kylo Ren and Stormtrooper. But one time he went by himself just as Kylo Ren, and one of the parents came up to him quite concerned because they were like, "Who are you?" Because he was wearing a black cloak and he was carrying a weapon, and they were like, "Are you the Grim Reaper?" And we were like, "Oh no!" Because without a Stormtrooper, and if you don't know who Kylo Ren is, he's walking around a hospital. It doesn't look that good. He's a total angel, and they now go in a pair.
Oh, brilliant. Now, look, Carrie, outside of your dogs, because, your dogs are awesome and they're amazing human beings, I like to say. What do you do in your downtime? When you get away from work for a little bit and you can actually have a weekend off, which I would imagine would be very rare for you, especially at the moment as we're about to go into the dark side Geonosis territory battle. What do you do in your downtime? What does Carrie do?
I do mostly just play video games, and so I'm not a very super cool person, and so I wish I could say I play the ukulele and I go to shows or whatever. No, I do a lot of go home, relax, play video games. I actually a SWGOH player got me back into WoW. And I curse him forever for that. But I have 56 consoles, and so I have a pile of games. Yeah, I'm a fanatic and a collector, and I try to play video games whenever I can. Unfortunately, because I'm playing WoW right now, the stack of PS4 and Xbox games that are piling up is getting out of control. But it's okay, because we're making progression on Mythic to Zara lore, and that's all that matters.
I like it. But, have you got the old Atari and Sega and Nintendo and all that? Have you got all those?
Yes. I have a 2600, a 5200, a 7800, a Jaguar. I have a Nintendo.
Oh.
I have 6 or 7 NESs. I have a top-loading NES. I have the new mini NES. I have a SNES. I have a PAL SNES. I have a Japanese SNES. I have an N64. I have, a GameCube, 2 GameCubes. I really, a ColecoVision and television. I mean, if you can name it, I probably have it. TurboGrafx.
Let's see. I've got, sitting in my garage, a Commodore 128.
Oh, okay. No, I have a Commodore 64, obviously, but I don't have a 128.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow. Well, Paul,
Yeah.
it was in your garage, but now it's in Carrie's house. So
that's right. I did stop getting out of control. I have in my guest room, my mom's coming to visit, and I basically haven't unpacked the the 40 kind of packing bins of consoles are just sitting there, and I was like, I hope you don't mind being surrounded by video game consoles.
Wow. We have to do a Sonic the Hedgehog championship sometime.
So I will say one thing about that. So I have there's an engineer in the studio who, and actually I think his name is CG Hedgehog when he talks about the game, and I think he's actually going to start making an appearance on Reddit. He is the biggest Sonic fan I have ever met in my entire life. And when this whole kind of controversy came out with the look of the character in the movies, I started trolling him by basically talking about how much I don't like the game. And I was like, yeah, I mean, what does anyone care? It's a bad game anyway. And you wouldn't believe, he showed up in my office. I wish I could give you his picture, but I wouldn't do that with permission. He was wearing like a Sonic hat and like a Sonic jacket. And he was holding like a statue, like a memorabilia thing. And he showed up and he was like, I want to talk about Sonic. Like, very important. I would not be very good at that championship. I would be very good at a Double Dragon championship. But
yeah, nice.
If you happen to get that picture, in time, go ahead and send it over to us. We'll throw it in the listener lounge for people to
I'll ask him permission.
All right, and so, well, you mentioned that he's going to be on Reddit. Please tell us that you don't spend too much time there.
Well, if you ask them, then clearly I don't, because I ignore all of their questions. No, like, here's the thing. I'm obviously, you can tell that I do spend probably a little too much time reading Reddit, and our forums and other places. Look, I do a lot of what I would call temperature checking, and I try to do it because I do think that I can tell when something's a big deal and when something is not as big of a deal, and trying to kind of gauge between that. I will say the whole 5 to 8 refresh thing really threw off my gauge, because that to me wasn't going to be a big thing, because we had said it was temporary. And so it was sort of like, it really shocked me. But I also felt like that was actually like when you go to the doctor and you say this hurts and the doctor's like, it's something else over here. It was more about like a reflection of the crunch and pain and all that. Well, all of that is to say that I spend a good amount of time looking at Reddit, and I also have to sometimes strategically take a little break. Like, I've been sick for a couple of weeks. I haven't been reading Reddit as much because it does get overwhelming.
I'll bet. And Carrie, especially with, the likes of Reddit, you yourself actually know what that's all about when it comes to doing a weekly podcast and copying the trolls left, right, and center. Can you give us any tips about doing a podcast?
Well, I was very fortunate to be at GameSpot Entertainment. GameSpot.com at the time where I felt like it was just such a group of people that was just amazing. And we did a weekly podcast called The Hotspot, and it was awesome. I think for me, one of the hardest things about a podcast, because I'm such a talker, is that finding that balance of when to jump in, when to make the joke, when not to make the joke, especially if you're not all in the same room. And I know you guys are doing this like across the world, which is awesome.
We are.
But it can be really hard, right? Like when to find the balance, the beats, and all of that. So I used to try to save up my energy for like a rant, and I would I would always want to be talking because that's who I am, but I would try to wait, and people still contact me occasionally, time and time, because I went on this huge rant about the Fragdolls back in the day, and I don't even know if they still exist, but I was really kind of against gender separated competition, and so I kind of, I would sort of wait and then like just kind of let loose, and people would kind of let me just rant for 5 minutes, which made me happy. Kind of like what I'm doing to you guys right now.
Ranting for 5 minutes. That sounds familiar, Scotty.
Yeah, doesn't it just, Paul? That's exactly what you do, man. You're like, have you been like hanging out with CG Carrie for quite some time, have you, man? Like, it sounds like you both...
She taught me all that I need to know.
Yeah, right.
Hey. Now, Carrie, we're going to rapid fire here a few things. So do you follow sports? And if so, who are your teams in the 4 majors?
I do follow sports. I primarily follow football. I'm a Redskins fan, diehard, but I've lived through 20 years of misery, so I'm a kind of a Seahawks fan as like a secondary team. I'm an Orioles fan.
Okay, I'll stop you there.
Okay, stop it.
I'll stop you there because I am a Browns fan, so I feel your pain.
Right, exactly. You know exactly what that's like.
Hey, and meanwhile, over in Australia,
right?
in Australia, I'm a South Sydney Rabbitohs fan. We got the wooden spoon for way too many years, and Russell Crowe took us over. We've won a premiership, so I know what you're feeling. I know exactly what you're feeling, Carrie.
except for the winning the premiership recently. It's about 20 years since the Redskins have done it. And then I'm an Orioles fan, but I'm not a huge fan of baseball. I just really like attending it, and Camden Yards is a great baseball park. And I also lived in New York for a long time, so watching, I've seen the Orioles play 20-something times. They've always won when I've watched them play, and that includes multiple times at Yankee Stadium, which was not a common occurrence. And watching angry Yankee fans wearing all Orioles gear is super fun. I'm a Knicks fan, but that's because I didn't really get into basketball super hardcore until I was in college in New York. And also I loved a lot of those Knicks from that era came from the Hoyas in Georgetown. I grew up in DC. And is there a fourth major sport? Are you going to say hockey?
Oh, yeah, I'm going to say hockey.
No, I don't want hockey.
It's okay. It's okay. Half the population doesn't, and that's all right. I enjoy my Stanley Cup. Go Blues right now. I'm a Red Wings fan by heart, but a lot of my friends are from St. Louis, so go Blues.
And there were a lot of Fairweather Caps fans in Washington when they started to be good, and so like I sort of resolutely was like, I'm not going to suddenly like hockey just because my team's doing well. So I just support a lot of teams that are kind of crap.
Carrie, what's your favorite food?
So it's probably in the Vietnamese food family. Like I really like a lot of kind of Southeast Asian food. I think the flavors are kind of off the charts, and so like banh mi is probably my favorite.
Awesome. When are you coming to Australia?
So we have a studio in Australia, Fire Monkeys. Those guys are amazing, and I always feel bad for them because they're always traveling out here to see us. The problem is my dogs. Like there have been times where I've entertained going and moving to Australia. The problem is the dogs. I don't know how to get around the whole quarantine thing.
Yeah, well, that's right. Yeah, you don't want to be a Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, man. Pistol and Boo got told to piss off out of the country. It's not fun.
Yeah, I'm not screwing around with ecosystems, right? I don't know anything about how any of that works. I'm not trying to mess around with that. I love my dogs, but I'm sure that they have bugs on them. So, I mean, they're great, but they probably have something. And so I need to visit. I really, really would like to visit. It's time, man.
Yeah, understood.
Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
Yes.
Yeah, hell yeah. Sure.
Absolutely yes.
Ketchup or mustard on hot dogs?
Oh, mustard and onions the only thing you can put on a hot dog. But that being said, that's something I would put on a hot dog. I respect anyone's choice to put whatever they want on anything.
Nice.
But if you don't put mustard, something's wrong with you.
Carrie, what's it like to work at a gaming studio?
It's the best job in the world, and there are times where you take the one thing that you love the most from like a passion standpoint and you make it work, and you start to get a little bit twitchy.
Nice. And if you were stranded on a deserted island, who would it be with?
Do they have a say in the matter? Because it's probably my dogs and Idris Elba.
No, they don't. So that would be great.
Okay.
And that concludes this edition of the Escape Podcast bonus extra episode with CG Carrie. We really want to thank all the people that make this happen, all of our staff, Zed, Llama, Arlindana, the Sarlacc, the Nev for helping out with the Escape Podcast for Kids. I want to also make sure that I recognize this month all of our Patreons. Tenpool, Adam, Denku, Sobi, Dano, David, Buzzsaw, Gavin, Mohican, John, Caden, Matt, Newbie Gaming, Tupaka, Savage Diva, Uber, Urzatron, and Zed. Thank you all for what you do to make this show happen, and thank you for believing in us early on. Scotty, with that information, push the button.
Don't mind if I do.
What's going on? Where the hell are we? Paris?
Thank you for pressing the self-destruct button.
Attention! This is Colonel Sanders in forward command. Abandon ship! Abandon ship! All personnel